Alright. Okay. So, good evening once again. This is an interview session with one of our successful clients, and in a couple of minutes, she's going to introduce herself, of course, and give us some background. But before we do that, this is an opportunity to share light on what Rhemma Consult does. Um, Rhemma Consult have been a very great partner to what we will call the American Dream, helping a lot of clients get approval through EB1 as well as EB2 and other classification family-based ones as well. Um, Today, we have one of our wonderful clients with us. It is, whenever I think about, I don't know if Pallabi recalls this, but whenever I think of Pallabi as a client, it's a little bit it's funny and interesting. So I think she reached out to me via LinkedIn, and she asked, so what does Rhemma do? And is it legit? Where can I get interviews? I guess she would speak to that. I would like to know why she made those comments, and probably I would ask her as well. But Pallabi is a senior program manager with Fred Hutton, and she has over 7 years of experience with research in public health. She's worked on a lot of federally funded projects. She's traveled all over, work related and all in public health. In the past month that I've worked with her, I've been able to understand a lot of different projects that she's been working with. So that is what we are going to talk about, learning about her experience that would potentially motivate us as well. So before going into any of the questions, maybe Pallabi, would you like to who is Pallabi? Yeah.
Hi everyone. Well, thank you for inviting me to chat, and thank you for all the services that you have provided. I'm happy to introduce myself. I'm Pallabi. I'm born and brought up in India. I moved to US for my master's to do my master's in statistics, and currently I'm working as a program manager, as mentioned by Fred Hutch. I work at the vaccine and infectious division. I am a public health professional with experience in working mostly with federal government, where most of my research is directly funded by NIH. I work in close partnership with pharma and other scientific. And my focus area is into HIV/AIDS vaccine and prevention research, then SARS-CoV and TB and other research. And currently, I am leading the strategic portfolio for research and discovery related to all the vaccine development and other prevention programs. Partnership, lab and support. Also, I'm currently pursuing my public health. That's about.
Yeah. Thank you. So think your sometimes your voice gets muffled in and out. So maybe if in the next ones, subsequent ones, you could get your mouthpiece a little bit closer. That would be great, because realize that at the point it was going in and out, but that's just by the way. But thank you so much for the introduction. I want to ask you, do you remember that the very first time you reached out was via LinkedIn, and you were a little bit skeptical about using the services of Rhemma? Do you mind, and why were you skeptical? And yeah, I'm just curious.
Yes, I can definitely talk about. So I am quite active, and there is a lot of posting that people are talking about how
I think your voice is a little bit muffled. Am I the only one struggling to hear? I just want to make sure that maybe it's not me and it's. Thumbs up if you can hear her clearly. Maybe it's just me. Um, I don't know. Sometimes it feels like you're a little bit out, and sometimes you feel like you're in. Hold on, it's not only you. Yeah. Is it possible to get it is an internet issue. Okay, got you. Seems like it is an internet issue. Um, I don't know if it's possible for you to call in, if that will make it easier. Because
Is it better now?
yes, this is better now. Yeah, this is
Okay, cool. All right. All right. So, okay. I was
I
talking about
was I
experience.
asked about the the skepticism, and like I remember you really asked a lot of questions when you reached out. I was just curious to know why.
Yeah, so the thing is like in LinkedIn there is a lot of posting right now going on about this whole EB2 and NIW process, and uh, I already had a chat with one of the attorney through LinkedIn, and I did had a deep discussion about my profile with that person, um, and somehow I felt in my conversation that they were not able to understand my profile because it's kind of nuanced. So, and then I left the conversation at that point. And and in this experience, there was a big takeaway for me that I would love to work with someone who, first of all, who is very professional, someone who has a nuanced experience to understand my work and my research, and someone who has been through this whole process. Like, knowing you and looking at your profile, I thought like, okay, he understands the whole nuanced research profile and how you can make a strong case. Yeah, and the thing that um, I was skeptical because I was anxious at the first place, and I didn't want to go through the same process again with my first experience. That's why I was keen to understand, like, okay, uh, what are your services, how we can partner, and like to set the right expectations, basically. Yeah.
Okay. Well, thanks for sharing that. So given that, so yes, as you heard from Pallabi, I didn't know her the first time. She sent a LinkedIn message, and I answered it, and from there we decided to move on. So she just shared that experience. So now I'll move on to the questions that we had in mind. How do you feel about the approval notice, and are you satisfied with the outcome?
I feel great, and it makes me happy. And there is a sense of validation about my work and how important it is for the public good. So it is certainly it feels good to me. And yeah, and there is um, we have to work together for my EB1A, which we will be discuss for future.
Yes, yes, definitely, definitely. It is just the beginning of our partnership with Pallabi. And definitely, I would say that with regards to the validation of your work, you've been on like massive grants, and we're not talking about just thousands of dollars, like millions of dollars, and the work that you are doing is impacting not just USA, but all over the world. And so that is really great that objectively the officers also agree with that as well. But how did you learn about Rhemma Consult?
So the first thing which I saw was the LinkedIn page. And there was a big post about an experience of a candidate where she was sharing her story about like how she has used your services, and how quick it was, like within like 2 months they went through the whole process and she got an approval. So I was looking through those posts and it felt like, okay, this is something I can definitely explore. And as you said, like I think I emailed you and I did a LinkedIn message, right? And then then you said like, okay, this is the process, but first I would love to have a evaluation call with you to understand your profile, which I totally see, like, and it is really great from like, it is very transparent for you to have this process in place together, because you are not upfront giving a, you know, giving a false hope that, oh, your profile is looking great, which I can see in your LinkedIn and I can work with you. So I really appreciate that process. And then I think there was an evaluation call for an hour. We talked about all the different. So first of all, the first 30 minutes of the call was me talking to you about my profile and where do I see myself. And then you started talking about like, okay, how we should strategize your application. Is it a good case, bad case, or if there is something which I need more work to do. So I really appreciate that 1 hour call and gave me a lot of confidence. So yeah, that was my process.
Definitely. And yeah, I remember that call. I think it was initial. I think we planned it for a particular day, but I rescheduled it to a weekend. And then we had a very detailed conversation where you enlightened me about the project you're working on and also the transitions. So part of it was like from where you started as a um, analyst and then moved through the ranks as well. So getting to know the different projects that you worked on and your critical role in those projects was really helpful. And I guess so what convinced you to choose Rhemma Consult? I'm sure there are a lot of like different even law firms and all of that, but like what was the deciding factor that hey, you decided to go with our consult?
I think I would start from the first call which we had. There was a lot of critical questions that you asked throughout that call, and which really helped me to understand even what kind of evidence I should bring on the table as we will be preparing for the application. And also, I think you allowed and gave the space to express and ask things, because I was asking a lot of questions to you, just to make sure, okay, I'm aware of the process. And, like, because after all, that was the decision time where I would say like, hey, we are getting ready and I will be happily collaborating with you. So I think the first call was really great. And then few other things while we were working, I felt like there is a lot of professionalism which you bring in throughout the process. There is a lot of accountability. It's a very transparent process where you are giving your 100% and you are expecting as a client to give their 100%. So and there is an optimistic attitude, yet making the client aware that what are the different risks that we will be taking during this application if we are writing this and that. So I really love the well-rounded process that you have. Yeah, very professional, I would say. Yeah.
Okay, thank you. How confident were you in the in the likelihood of a straight approval before beginning working with Rhemma Consult?
Do you mind repeating the question? Sorry.
So how confident were you that you were going to get an approval before you met Rhemma Consult?
So before thinking about, so I just want to express the whole process that I went through and how and why I chose EB2 NIW. So currently I am in my H1B and this is my 4th year, and my employer was going through my perm process, but the labor certification, as we all know, it takes a lot of time, and I think currently there is a indefinite time for like 1 year, or it can extend more than 1 year, right?
Yeah.
So I had a chat with one of my friend, and he went through EB2 NIW 2 years back, and there was a lot of confidence which I had from his application process, and he said how important it will be if I'm going for a EB1A,
And then he said, are you planning to apply for your EB1A? And I said, yes. So then he said, I would definitely encourage you to look for EB2 NIW. So basically, EB2 NIW was a strategic move for me to, first of all, to validate my profile. And also somehow during my EB1A application, I can certainly show my NIW status. So that's the reason why I was keen to go for an NIW. I was confident about my profile as a vaccine researcher. I had a pretty much good citations, like 80 plus citations with multiple presentation and papers. But I think there is a lot of nuance thing that you have to bring into your application. It is more than citation. It is more than your CV. It is more than your grants. How you write your application, how you provide those evidences, it's very critical. And I think talking to Emmanuel, it gave me that confidence that I can write a really thorough application. I was confident about my profile, but I was not ready to write the application for sure. Yeah.
Yeah, definitely. So now we want to hear more about some projects you've worked on in the past. So like, what are some of the um big projects you've worked on your past?
Yeah, so one of the recent projects which I want to highlight, and I'm very proud to be part of this project, is the development of COVID-19 vaccine. Specifically, I was partnering with NIH, I was partnering with pharma companies, where I was part of the Statistical and Data Managing Center, where my group and myself, we were part of end-to-end study development, regulatory approvals, site readiness, implementation of clinical trials, and this is all regulatory phase 3B clinical studies that we were doing, data analysis, pipeline building. There was a lot of partnerships that we have built with the local bodies, like dissemination of data, and then making sure we are doing our regulatory approval for the product itself in the market. So there was a lot of systems and processes which I have used in the past from my HIV experience, and I repurposed those for my COVID vaccine research. And yeah, it was amazing for me to see like and validate those processes. And yeah, we got a big funding from NIH to do this research. And one thing which I was, of course, I was working on those big grants. And Emmanuel told me, why don't you ask your PI to write a letter for you and they can write what was your role and how you have contributed, which is amazing. And I got the letter. And it was like, of course, it's something that we are still working on because COVID is still a thing right now. So this was one of the biggest project I have worked on recently.
Definitely, and thanks for sharing that. So like I said before, the impact of her work is really beyond looking at vaccine and looking at how we can leverage vaccine, not just vaccine, but if its efficiency, its safetiness as well. So now let's talk a little bit about the write-up. The first time that the first draft came from the office of Rhemma, how was your experience, or what did you feel about the write-up itself?
So I working with you, the first thing which I see is you ask really critical questions. You ask who, what, where, and personally, I use a framework of like what, so what, now what. And when we were writing this whole application, first you actually showed me what all documents will be needed to come up with my application, because this application is huge. There is a lot of bits and pieces that you have to come together. So we came up with a strategy. Okay, those are the 5 documents we will be first focusing on, and then we can move on the other 5. And sorry. And then so it was so after we started working on my applications, we came up with a timeline where we said like, okay, when we want our application to be ready, and what should be a timeline for us to get this submitted. So we came up with a timeline. We did a backward planning, like what are some of the milestones we have to make sure, how many round of reviews we might take for my application. We created a collaborative space in Google Drive, and there was a lot of back and forth and open communication, which was happening through WhatsApp, email. And I think it was a great process for me to actually see what Emmanuel is working on. And there was a lot of, I think, expectation which was set by Emmanuel, like you will be working on ABC and I will be working on this document, and then you can review it. So I really enjoyed this process throughout. Yeah.
Definitely, and I definitely enjoyed working with you as well. I would definitely say that your level of involvement was high because like you gave good feedback for the most part. Not that most of my clients don't, but you were really involved, and that speaks to the level of expertise that you have in your project. So you really know what you've been doing for a very long time. Um, what were some of the features of the application that stood out to you?
Um, so you have to be very innovative when you are writing your applications. You have to make sure, if you don't have a, for example, if you are working on a research project, but that research project is not directly linked with the paper of it, it's not directly linked with poster or presentation in some shape and form. But what you can do is you can ask for some evidence from your director, from your manager, and they can write a letter to you, because all we have to prove is what was your contribution and how your contribution has a bigger goal and picture, and how it is going to impact United States and their strategic goals, right? So I think it's you have to be very smart when you're writing your applications. And there is a lot, that's one thing which I have seen in this process, that sometimes I would say like, hey, Emmanuel, I got an email from this person and he wants me to be in the board of this committee. Do you think this can be a evidence? And he says, sure, we can actually prove this as an evidence, and this email can be in one of the evidence, and you can ask this person to write a short letter for you, like why he chose you. So all the things that you do can shape as an evidence, just you have to be very smart how you show it in your application.
Definitely. One of the things that I've been trying to do is always give a call. Usually, even during the process, there is always a time that I'll just ask a lot of questions just to make sure that we are not missing anything in the process. And I remember that I made that call where we had a very deep, even this was way in the process where we had a detailed conversation about like what are some of your achievements. And that was when you spoke about some of the things like your SARS award that
Yeah.
you got, and then the criteria for it as well. How did you feel about that call, and what do you think was the role of that call, and how
Yeah,
Rhemma worked with you to get this approval?
which I want to highlight is it's you who actually ask those questions. And sometimes I feel like, because you have your own assumption, and I came with some assumption like, okay, anything which is past 4 years doesn't matter. You have to show some current work, and that's what your application should show. No, you can go back, like whenever you came, like you applied for your master's program, and you got accepted by 5 universities. You can show that that's an evidence, because people have like selected you for those universities and program, right? So I think those calls were so critical for me, because I was explaining, okay, during my master's, I got this award. During my master's, I got this scholarship. And you were telling, okay, why didn't you tell me before? And then I thought like it was way back. It was like 6 years back when I got this award. And everything is relevant. That's what one of the biggest learning is. Everything you do is relevant, and everything that you are working on can be shown in some shape and form. It's just that you have to be very strategic and be vocal to your manager, be vocal to your partners, tell them that you are applying for a EB2 NIW visa, make them understand what it is and how it will be great if they recommend you. Just few lines about your work. Yeah. So
So this is a kind of, maybe you have said a couple of this, but like, how did you feel about the timeline of the write-up? Can you speak about the promptness, and how would you rate the promptness in delivering the services as
yeah,
well?
I am very satisfied, and I think one thing which I have seen in this process is that you have to be very serious when you are working with Emmanuel, uh, because he understands his work ethics, and he works at a great pace. He has all the other different clients who are actually waiting for his services. So when he is giving your 100%, he is also expecting your 100%. So I think it was a great experience. I really enjoyed the promptness. And also I really enjoyed, because it was a collaborative process. It's just not you rushing it, because we mutually came up with a timeline. And I said, yes, within 1 month, let's get this application done. And I remember I had a emergency travel as well on that week. And I said, can we just push the timeline by 1 week because I have a travel? And you were very flexible with that as well. So I really enjoyed this whole process.
Okay. So would you um, recommend Rhemma Consult to others in a similar situation?
Absolutely, yes. And I have already referred so many people who have interacted with me. I'm sure they have emailed you. And yeah, I would definitely recommend, because you understand the nuances really good. And you are someone who has a really deep research background. So I really appreciate that.
Definitely, definitely. And it definitely was a pleasure working with you. I always say that in working with lots and lots of clients, I've come to know a lot and lots of things over and one of the things that I've worked with both researchers and non-researchers, and one of the things that I've seen about researchers is researchers are very passionate people. They want to say everything about the research, and sometimes there need to be a balance between the research and it. So definitely enjoyed working with you on the application itself. What I would say is definitely we've done a lot of great things, but one of the things we also want to improve on is what are some of the things you think we can improve on? So more specifically, like um, in what ways do you think we can improve our services to better meet the needs of our clients?
Um, Well, that's a tricky question. Well, I don't have any feedback, but I have one wish, which I would love to say is, the first time when I asked you so many questions. So I think I know this is your venture, and it's growing right now. I would love to see an official website where we can have all those information. So that's a wish for me. Yeah.
Yeah, I definitely agree with that. One of the things that when we started this, and that's true, it's a new venture. One of the things that we've tried to do is get a website running, and actually it came after our interaction, so it wasn't before. So I'm putting it in the chat. I mean, we are still getting there. It's not yet fully blown, but I'll put a link in the chat that we are happy to say that we do have it now, and then we are trying to work on updating everything. So it is in the chat. So, but yes, I agree that the streamlining the process a little bit would be more great. So definitely. What do you have any other ones? And it's fine if you don't, but I'm interested in knowing as well.
Oh, I can see the website. Amazing. Yeah.
Yeah, it is not quite there. Like for example, like we don't have a lot of like FAQs and all of those things. It's still most of the time, yeah. But definitely, I think that is true. But this wasn't there when we started our interaction. So yes, that is very true. When
Okay.
I worked with you, this was an app. But yeah, this is where we are now. Okay. Aside the wish of the website, which it's a work in progress, do you have any other suggestions that could help tailor our services to meet the needs of other clients as well?
No, I think I really enjoyed the process. So
Okay.
yeah, and it was quick, it was transparent, you were professional, it was collaborative, you were very detail oriented, which I loved. Whenever I was giving you some of my edits, I could see you were working on those edits. So I really enjoyed the process. Yeah.
Great. So now, usually what I do is to open it up for the next 10-15 minutes. If you have any questions that you want to learn from Pallabi, this will be a nice time for you to learn that as well, and to inspire you, because this whole process is hectic. One of the things that I always say is that um, I didn't much of the information I knew back in 2017 was you needed X number of citation, you needed this, you needed that. Like, and I did contact a couple of lawyers, and they all said you weren't going to do it. And I did EB1 and NIW all by myself, and the rest is history. So if you have any questions that you want to get from Pallabi to serve as some sort of inspiration for you, this will be a nice time to ask. So if you have any questions, please feel free to direct it to her as well.
Hi, this is Bridget, and I'm already inspired. I'm just waiting for you to call me back. So when are you going to call me back?
Soon.
How soon?
Let's talk back though.
Okay.
And someone is asking, hi, Pallabi, is it all about what goes into the application process, or did you do some interviews with the US immigration authorities? I think it's in the chat, so if you want to read it together.
Yes. So for my EB2 NIW, there is no interview with the US immigration authorities. It's just the paperwork that you have to do. You have to ship it to them, and then you are going to track. They will assign a case number to you, and that's how you will be getting updates that they are reviewing your application, and once it's being accepted, you will get a notification again with an email, and then you will get a I-797 mailed to your to you directly. So that's the process. You don't have to go through any interviews.
She applied from the United States, that I can answer for her.
Yeah. So I'm right now in Seattle, and I applied from United States. Yeah, I'm working here right now, and I can put my email address here. Please feel free to reach out to me if you have any questions. Happy to answer them over email as well.
Well,
Okay, what are the possibilities for people outside United States? I think that's an Emmanuel question.
I've always said this, that the whole immigration process, if you think about it, is not meant for people, ideally, It's not meant for people who are already in the United States, because immigration is the idea that you want to immigrate from somewhere to somewhere, right? Migration. There is no rule anywhere in USCIS that I am aware of that is even there. And given how US is a global developed country, that is saying that if you are coming from a particular country, we are going to punish you for coming from X country. What am I trying to say? This whole process is based on requirement. If you meet the requirement, regardless of wherever you come from, right? So if you go and you look at our new website, you realize that there have been clients that even from Africa all the way, like one from Ghana, all the way from Ghana, and came here. He had never been to the United States. The only time he got to the United States was after he got his green card through the consular. So for what are the possibilities for people outside the US? It's about requirements. If you meet the requirements, that is it. They are not going to punish you because you are not in the United States. No, you can apply it from anywhere in the world, provided you meet the requirements. It is not about whether you are in the US or not. It's about the requirements. If you can show you meet the requirements objectively, not just meeting the requirement, but objectively, then the opportunities or the possibility is the same for somebody who is still in the United States. What is the average duration of the entire process? So Pallabi used the premium processing, which means that by default, USCIS promised 45 calendar days. But if you don't do the premium processing and you do the regular processing, the time varies. It could be anywhere between 7 months to 13 months, depending on like the load from USCIS and all of that stuff. So to answer your question, it depends. If you're doing a regular, maybe 6 to 12 months. And if you're doing a premium, it's 5 calendar days.
Yeah, I think if you're doing premium, as per what is written in the website, it's within 45 days, you will get to hear back, right?
Yeah.
So for me, it was almost like within 27 to 30 days, I got a reply.
Cool. So yeah, 27 to 30 days. So yeah, that you go. And even with the premium, I've seen people like as early as like 3 days. Like one of our clients got as early as 3 days. It just depends on, I believe sometimes the workload, like if there are a lot of workload around, it would take a while. And sometimes it also depends on who is actually adjudicating the case. You know, maybe the person has a lot of workload in particular. And, you know, I always say that the officers, they do a very great job at adjudicating these cases, because there are a lot of cases that go to the USCIS, and not just EB1, EB2, like a lot of them, H1B, EB3, EB4, EB5, family-based visa application, asylum processing, like there are a lot of cases. So it just depends on who gets your case. But if it's premium, they promise that in 45 days they'll give you a response, but it can come earlier than that. If it is regular, 6 to 12 months is your best bet. I believe that would be all the questions that was raised. I want to personally thank everyone for being here, but most importantly, Pallabi for using the services of Rhemma and making time today to be here for the interview as well. I would say, is there any other thing you'd like to say to people who are considering this whole process? Like, you know, what would you have said to your old self if you knew the information you have today?
Yeah, I would definitely say if you folks are considering applying for EB2 NIW, I think first is going through the website, understanding those criterias is the step one. And second thing is, please make sure you do a consultation call to understand like where are you with your process, what more needs to be done, and then you get a reality check like, okay, I should work for next 6 months to build my profile and then apply. So I would encourage people to definitely take that consultation call first to get an understanding what is expected, how far I am from this application process, how I can build my profile, what are the different ways I can build my profile. So it was really helpful for me. So I would definitely encourage people to go for that. Yeah. And it's a lot of, when you start the application, there is a lot of writing, there is a lot of documents that you have to present. I have seen myself working 3 a.m. at night because I'm doing a full-time job, I'm doing a PhD. So you have to be committed. There is, and sometimes you feel like, why I'm doing this, why so much of evidence I'm putting together, like it's just too much of a process. But you know, you have to be patient, you have to be committed and trust the process, because that's what I did. I trust the process and I was in constant touch with, and and the fact that I was working with Emmanuel, he gave me the space to ask questions. So sometimes I would question myself and then I will question back to him like, hey, why we are doing this, by the way, like why I'm writing this. So, and then he will say, you know, for your exhibit A, you have to put this evidence in place. So that's why we are doing it. So I would definitely appreciate people to go through this consultation call first to understand what is being expected. And I wish everyone all the best. I have my email, and please feel free to reach out to me if you have any questions, concerns. Yeah, I'm happy to jump on a call. I am happy to write an email back to you. Yeah.
Definitely. Thank you once again. And we will be in touch somehow in the future. So that would be bye for now. And we look forward to either you using our services elsewhere or using anyone, but all the best, and hope you are able to make this immigration a thing of the past for you. Thank you and bye for now.
Thank you, everyone. Thank you, Emmanuel.
Yeah.